Hello student, good evening to all of you. So hope all of you are doing good. So you ready? Okay, so this is the first MCQ in front of you, right? So a 50-year-old woman with uncontrolled diabetes undergoing vibration sensibility testing, right, with a vibrating tuning fork of 128 Hz. What kind of receptor are activated by this kind of stimulus? So basically, although the question is looking like a clinical based question, okay, but question answer is purely based on physio knowledge. So please remember, in this question, 120 Hz frequency, this is one of the high frequency vibration, and high frequency vibration is always by this Pacinian corpuscle. So all of you are 100% correct. Very good. Okay, so Pacinian corpuscle, you have to remember, this is for vibration sense, but remember the Pacinian corpuscle is for high frequency vibration in and around 200 Hz. So if it is in and around 200 Hz, then this is best picked up by the Pacinian corpuscles. What about the others one? These Meissner corpuscles. Could you recall what is the function of these Meissner corpuscles? Meissner's corpuscle. Low frequency vibration cutoff, it's greater than 50 should be there. Greater than 50 should be there. If it is 50 or less, then there is different kind of receptor that we are going to discuss here. That this Meissner corpuscles, it can also be activated by vibration, right? But here the vibration frequency is approximately 50 Hz. So 50 Hz or lesser. And if it is very less, even less than 50 up to 5 or for less than 5, then the Merkel cells can also be activated. So this can also be activated by vibration. But here the frequency should be very low frequency vibration. Actually, this is not kind of vibration, but this is a kind of flattering. So here the frequency would be around 5 Hz. So these three things you have to remember, that if the frequency is higher one, okay, particularly 100 or more than 100, okay, high frequency vibration, best is 200, but if it is above 50 or so, then Pacinian corpuscle is going to be activated. But if the frequency is 50 or lower, then the Meissner corpuscles can also detect this vibration. And if it is very low, only 5, 4, something like that, this kind of frequency, very low frequency, then your Merkel cells can also be activated. So please remember this basic scenario, that Meissner's, Merkel's, Pacinian, all of them can detect the vibration, but their frequency range is different, right? Got it, everybody? So if you have any question, you can ask me. I'll try to answer with my best capability what I know, okay? If I don't know, I'll say that this is not my cup of tea, okay? So all of you got this thing, that these three things I have to remember, okay? That vibration, right? Okay. Now, apart from vibration, could you tell me that what is the best stimulus for this Meissner's? Although it can detect vibration, but this is not for vibration in our body, right? The Meissner corpuscles, what is the best stimulus? If I ask you what is the best stimulus for this Meissner's, your answer will be, it's a moving touch. Moving touch. So please remember, this is clearly written in Guyton, that if the touch is moving on your, obviously this is fine touch, but if the touch is moving, if the touch is stationary, then the Meissner's, it is not the best stimulus for Meissner's. Meissner's means the best stimulus is moving touch. So if this touch is moving over your skin, then it is best pick up by Meissner's. So please remember that moving touch, okay, moving touch is the best stimulus for this Meissner's. And what is the best stimulus for this Merkel's? Remember, for Merkel's, the best stimulus is sharp point. So it is also touch, okay, sustained touch, right? But what kind of touch? It should be sharp point or sharp edges or corners, okay? So this kind of stimulus. So if I want to feel the corner of this table, if I want to feel the edges of this table, so that is the best touch stimulus which is detected by Merkel cells. Please remember this basic thing. And Raffini's corpuscles, the best stimulus for this is stretch on skin by large objects placed on your skin, okay? stretch on skin by large object. So if I put this large object like this remote on my hand, so what is happening? There is stretching of my skin on the hand, so that will be detected by this Raffinis corpuscle. That is the stretch on skin, right? So I'm coming to this 2-point discrimination, Dr. Salaman. I'm coming to that. Okay, there is another question. So what is my gain from this question? My gain is that the Pacinian corpuscle is high frequency vibration. That is the best stimulus. Meissner corpuscles is a moving touch is the best stimulus, although it can detect low frequency vibration. Merkel's very low frequency vibration it can detect, but the best stimulus is the point, sharp point or edges or corners, right? And Raffinis corpuscles, they can detect the stretch on the skin by large object placed on the hand. That are the things that I have to remember from this question. All of you are clear about this? Okay, there should not be any confusion here. And please remember, although we are discussing this clinical part, this is very frequent topic in NEET exam also. So you have to be very careful. Every information is crucial here. Here, a 20-year-old man, neurologist become everything is given. He underwent a neurological examination to evaluate the nervous system. Which of the following cutaneous mechanoreceptor is correctly paired? The Pacinian corpuscle and the rapid adaptation. That is the thing. So all of you know that the touch receptor, they are rapidly adapting and slow adapting touch receptor. So all of you know that this rapidly adapting touch receptor example is Pacinian corpuscles. Second one is the Meissner corpuscles, and third one is the hair end organ, right? So Pacinian, Meissner's and hair end organ. On the other hand, the slow adapting receptor, all of you know this, that slow adapting receptor are these Merkel's. Okay, Merkel's is there. Second one is the Raffinis, and third one is the free nerve ending, right? So this number 1, number 2, number 3, right? So if you just remember this, your answer is correct in this question. But please remember, we have discussed the Pacinian corpuscle best stimulus, Meissner's we have also discussed. Now this hair end organ, remember this is present. If this is your hair follicle, at the base of this hair follicle there is a receptor. This is known as the hair end organ, right? So if this is your hair follicle, so this hair follicle and this base is wrapped up, the base of this hair follicle is wrapped up by a receptor. This is known as the hair end organ. What it detects? Whenever there is movement of the hair over your skin, it is detected by this hair end organ. Whenever there is movement of hair over your skin, that is best detected by this hair end organ. Clearly written in Guyton, right? So this is on the right hand side, rapidly adapting. Now slow adapting receptor, where the Merkel's we have discussed the best stimulus, Raffinis we have also discussed the best stimulus. Now this free nerve ending, this is also touch receptor, although we know that pain receptor is also located on the free nerve ending. But free nerve ending detects some special kind of touch, that is itching and tickling. These two kind of touch sensation is best detected by free nerve ending. Free nerve ending means end portion of the neuron where there is no myelination. That part is known as the free nerve ending. It is best for detecting the itching and tickling sensation, right? So all of these are the touch receptor, and we have classified this touch receptor into rapidly adapting and slow adapting. Now remember, all of these touch receptor are located in dermis, except this Merkel cells. It is located at the level of epidermis. So please remember, it is located at the level of epidermis. All other touch receptor, like all of them, they are located at the level of dermis layer of the skin, right? So this is our answer. That first is the answer is D. Now coming to Meissner's corpuscles and skin stretch, we know that this is not true, because Meissner's is for the point, okay, point or corner. Meissner's is for the moving touch, right? then Merkel's is rapid vibration. No, Merkel's is very slow frequency vibration. So that is also not true. Ruffin is corpuscle and 2-point discrimination. So now we are coming to this question that we have already asked. Somebody already asked that this 2-point discrimination. So what I told, that point is best detected by which kind of receptor? Point, sharp point. If I put 1 point here and if I put 2 point here, what kind of receptor you require? Okay, what kind of receptor you require to detect the point? That is, tell me. So 2-point discrimination, if I say that what is the receptor for 2-point discrimination, what will be your answer? Exactly, that is Merkel's. Now Merkel's is receptor for 2-point discrimination. Now note down, 2-point discrimination is also known as tactile acuity. So this is known as tactile acuity. That's like visual acuity. So this is tactile acuity of touch, to differentiate between 2 points. So what is the neurological basis of this 2-point discrimination? You know that if I give 1 point here, if I give 2 point here, how the brain is able to differentiate these 2 points? If these 2 points are falling on two separate receptive zone, right, then and then only it will be detected as a separate point. Suppose one neuron is here and this neuron is connected to the level of brain, and another neuron is here, this is also connected to the brain, right? And the suppose this is the receptive field of the second neuron, and this is the receptive field of the first neuron. This is known as the receptive field. What do you mean by receptive fields? The area from where one sensory neuron can detect the sensation, that is the receptive field. So if this is one receptive field and this is another receptive field, so how this will be interpreted by brain? The brain will see that there is one action potential peak here and there is another action potential peak here. So what I am finding out, there are two separate peaks is occurring at the level of brain, and these two separate peaks will be detected by separate point. Getting my point? So what is the basis of 2-point discrimination? 2 points should fall on two separate receptive field. That is the thing, right? So if both of the stimulus are falling on the same receptive field, suppose the distance between these 2 points are so small that it is falling on the same receptive field, it is falling on the same receptive field here. So what will happen? It will only give one single action potential peak at the level of brain like this, and it will be detected like a single point only. Getting my point? So this is the basis of 2-point discrimination, that two separate points should be two separate receptive field. Now if I ask you, which touch receptor has smallest receptive field? Okay, so please remember Merkel's receptive fields is the smallest one. How much? That is the only 11 millimeter. 11 millimeter is the receptive field of the Merkel's. Getting my point? And the Meissner's receptive fields is also small. This is only 25 millimeter square. Okay, getting my point? So Merkel's receptive field is the smallest among any touch receptor in our body, and because of this reason, there is always possibility that the 2-point discrimination can be best detected by Merkel's. Right? So 2-point discrimination is also known as what? It is also known as tactile acuity. If I ask you, tactile acuity is maximum. 2-point discrimination. Okay, 2-point discrimination can be detected two separate points if their distance is very minimum. That is at which level? That is the tip of the finger. Right? Now, lips is most sensitive for the temperature sensation, followed by fingertips, and fingertips is the most sensitive for the touch, tactile acuity. And it is written in Guyton that the tactile acuity at the tip of the finger, the distance between two points should be 1 to 2 millimeter only. Getting my point? So Genong is saying that if the distance between 2 points is 2 millimeter also, the 2 points will be separately demarcated by the brain. But if I say that the tactile acuity is minimum at which level? On your back, okay, on your back, the scapular region. At this area, the tactile discrimination is only picked up if the distance between 2 points, yes, trunk on the back, if the distance between 2 points is 30 to 70 millimeter. Genong is saying 65 millimeter, but Guyton is giving this range that 30 to 70 millimeters should be the minimum distance between these 2 points. So getting my point? If you put these 2 points, suppose these are the 2 points I'm putting on your back, and the distance between 2 points is 1 centimeter, it will be picked up as a single point from the back. There should be at least 3 centimeter distance between these 2 points. Then and then only brain will perceive them as separate point. That means tactile acuity is very bad. Okay, poor tactile acuity. That is the minimum tactile acuity. But tactile acuity is best at the tip of the finger. Even if the distance between these 2 points is 1 millimeter or greater than 1 millimeter, that can be picked by 2 separate points at the level of brain. So this is the thing that I have to remember from this question. All of you, correct? Understanding is okay? Okay. Now apart from this, you also remember one controversial question from this region, I should say here. Okay, reading of braille. Okay, reading of braille, that is the braille reading is you know that which receptor is best for the reading of braille. So remember what is there in braille. Braille consists of single point like this, and the distance between these points are 2 to 3 millimeter. Getting my point? So what is there in braille? There are single elevated point, and the distance between these points is 2 to 3 millimeter. These points can be placed in the vertical direction also, it can be placed in the horizontal direction also. So when the blind person is putting their finger on this dot, so first suppose I am putting my finger here. Okay, I have to first perceive this dot, I have to first perceive this point as separate. Okay, so I am perceiving this point first, then I am trying to understand that whether these points are placed in the horizontal direction or whether the points are placed in the vertical direction. So first I am perceiving the point. So which receptor is required? Merkel's. Okay, because they are best for points. Then I am moving my finger on this braille, and I am trying to perceive that whether the direction of these points are on the horizontal or on vertical. So whenever I am moving my finger, it is moving touch. So which receptor is there? It is best picked up by Meissner's. So that's why it is said that braille's reading require both the receptor, Merkel's and Meissner's. But what receptor is best for reading braille? That is the Merkel's. The reference is neurophysiology book, that is Candel's Neurophysiology. There it has clearly written, okay, it has clearly written that best receptor for detecting the braille is Merkel's. I know some of the books has given Meissner's, okay, that's why you are saying. How they have given the experimental basis also, and you didn't listen what I told. I told that what is there in braille, there are single point only. So you have to first perceive the point. If you don't perceive the point as separate one, then you cannot read the braille. Okay, so that's why whenever I am perceiving this point as a single dot, this is nothing but Merkel's. What the Meissner is doing? Meissner is giving the orientation of this dot, whether they are vertical or horizontal. And in the neurophysiology book Candel's, they have given the experimental basis that without Merkel's, Meissner's cannot read the braille properly. The discrimination of this point is not proper. Okay, so that's why the best answer is Merkel's. But I know that it's a controversy. You are free to choose anything, but please believe me that this is from Candel's Neurophysiology, I am telling you. Okay, and in my Facebook page I have also given this reference from the Candel's Neurophysiology. If you look at my Facebook page, the announcements I have give everything. Okay, that what is the reference and what is the understanding. Understanding is that first you have to perceive the dot as separate, that how many dots are there. I am perceiving the separate dot. What receptor is required? 2-point discrimination receptor, that is nothing but Merkel's. Then I have to perceive by moving my finger that whether this dot are in horizontal or vertical, Meissner's. I am not saying that Meissner is not required, it is required. But without Merkel's, Misner cannot discriminate the dot. That's why the best answer is Merkel's, right? So this is the discussion of the second question, right? Correct, na? Okay. So this is very beautiful question. Okay, take some time to understand the question and try to answer. Very beautiful question. Okay. So, one 23-year-old woman fell asleep on the beach. Very good. So this is not in our country probably. Okay, and very bad sunburn when she was sleeping on the beach. Then on the next day when she was taking shower, okay, with lukewarm water at 40 degrees centigrade, he is feeling pain. That is the catch. So I have given you this red color mark. They are the catch in this question, that with this during this shower with this lukewarm water, she is perceiving pain. What type of receptor is activated? Okay, so look at the option: thermal nociceptor and nociceptive pain, thermal nociceptor and allodynia, innocuous thermal receptor and hyperalgesia, innocuous thermal receptor and allodynia. So tell me, what is your answer? So this 40 degrees centigrade is one of the catch that you have to first differentiate, that whether the answer will be AB or CD. Okay, thermoreceptor, you know, thermoreceptors which are present in our body, right? They are two types. Very simple. One is the cold receptor and warm is the second one is the warm receptor. So this cold receptor, they are activated with a temperature of 10 degrees centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade. This range is very important for NEET type of examination. Okay, so 10 to 40 degrees centigrade. On the other hand, this warm receptor, obviously they will give you the sensation of hot. They are activated with a temperature range of 30 degrees centigrade to 49 degree centigrade, 30 to 49 degrees centigrade. So there is an overlap zone between these two thermoreceptors. They are thermoreceptor. So this cold receptor, they will be activated with a temperature of 10 to 40 degrees centigrade, but the maximum activation occurs at a temperature of 24 degrees centigrade. On the other hand, this warm receptor, they are activated with a temperature of 30 to 49 degrees centigrade with maximum activation at a temperature of 45 degree centigrade, right? So these are the information that I am going to remember. Now in this question, look at, she was taking shower with which temperature? 40 degrees centigrade temperature. So if the temperature is 40 degrees centigrade, which kind of receptor is going to be activated? Thermoreceptor is going to be activated. They are not thermic pain receptor. They are not nociceptive pain receptor. Okay. So look at the question. Here this is given thermal receptor. But the other two option, the innocuous thermal receptor. So what is the difference? So first thermal receptor is the thermal nociceptor. First two receptor are thermal nociceptor, and second two option are the thermal receptor only, innocuous thermal receptor. So whenever I am saying thermal nociceptor, what do you mean by that? Look at, whenever I am giving this kind of temperature range, you will ask you that if the temperature is less than 10 degrees centigrade, sir, then what receptor is going to be activated? Or if the temperature is greater than 49 degrees centigrade, then what type of receptor is going to be activated, sir? Then I'll say that this will activate thermal nociceptor. This is nothing but nociceptor. And which type of nociceptor they are? Thermal nociceptor, because we know that temperature can also activate the nociceptor. But if the temperature is very high, greater than 49 degrees centigrade, or if the temperature is very low, suppose I am saying minus 4 degrees centigrade temperature, minus 4, minus 40, do you feel temperature cold or do you feel pain? That is a freezing pain. Or if the temperature is around 100 degree, 80 degree, so you again feel pain, because they are not going to activate your thermal receptor per se, they are going to activate your nociceptor. What kind of nociceptor? Thermal nociceptor. So first I can easily exclude this option number 1 and 2 because they are not activating thermal nociceptor. This 40 degrees centigrade, they are going to activate this innocuous thermal receptor, because thermal nociceptor are not going to be activated. So these two are not my answer. First I have excluded this thing, right? Then I have to understand that what is the difference between this hyperalgesia and what is the difference between this allodynia. Allodynia and hyperalgesia, both of these things will occur whenever there is hypersensitivity of pain neuron. What I told, whenever there is hypersensitivity of the pain receptor or pain neuron. So if the pain neuron become hypersensitive or the pain receptor become hypersensitive, it can produce hyperalgesia or allodynia. What is the difference? Difference is that hyperalgesia is the excessive pain, excessive or exaggerated pain, excessive pain in response to nociceptive stimulus, nociceptive stimuli. Remember this thing. So my stimulus is nociceptive stimuli, but I am feeling exaggerated response. I am feeling excessive pain in response to this nociceptive stimuli. What do you mean by that? Suppose I have given a small cut on the dorsum of your hand. That will produce pain, obviously, but you are feeling excessive pain which you should not feel. That is known as hyperalgesia. But whenever I am giving non-nociceptive stimuli, non-pain producing stimuli, okay, so non-nociceptive stimuli producing pain, this is known as allodynia. So if your stimulus is non-nociceptive, like suppose I am giving a touch and you are feeling pain. So I am giving touch, that's an innocuous touch, and you are feeling pain. So it should not produce pain sensation, but it is producing pain sensation because of hypersensitivity of the pain receptor. So I am giving touch, you are feeling pain. So that is allodynia. That means non-nociceptive stimuli is producing pain sensation, or the stimuli which should not produce pain is producing pain due to hypersensitivity of the receptor. That is known as allodynia. And what is hyperalgesia? If the stimulus is pain producing stimulus, means it is normally producing pain, but in some patient it is producing exaggerated response, then that is known as hyperalgesia. So now you look at the question again and tell me what is the correct answer. What is the correct answer in this question? Now I hope you got this thing. Now you try to answer again. So C is taking a shower with lukewarm temperature and C is feeling pain. So what is this? Hyperalgesia or allodynia? So what is this, C or D? Now you give me correct answer, right? Okay. So I hope you will give correct answer now. Everybody try to answer. Dr. Bayuha has given answer. Yes, Dr. Salman has given answer. Very good, very good. So this is nothing but typical allodynia. This is nothing but typical allodynia, because here the stimulus is temperature, and that is innocuous temperature. If the temperature is, suppose I am saying that C is taking a bath with 60 degrees centigrade temperature hot water and it is producing pain, then obviously that's a nociceptive stimuli. Okay, then first two answer will be there. Okay, first two message there will be an answer. But whenever I am saying 40 degrees centigrade temperature, that means my answer is, it is nothing but allodynia, allodynia, allodynia. That's why answer in this question is option number D. Right? Got it? Everybody got it? Just give me a thumbs up whether you understood this or not. So this is very, very beautiful question. What I believe, this kind of questions is going to come in future examination. Right? Got it? Everybody? Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Dr. Ram. Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Okay. Now I am going to the okay. So this diagram I have kept from Guyton. So look at whatever we have discussed now. I have given this diagram here. So on x-axis, different temperature zone has been written. Okay, 10 degrees centigrade. Okay, 40 degrees centigrade. Now look at, this is the receptor which is activated from this 10 degrees centigrade up to this 40 degrees centigrade. What is the receptor? This is cold receptor. And if you look at what is the maximum activation, what is the maximum activation? in and around 24 degrees centigrade. This is the maximum activation. Then you look at second diagram. This 30 degrees centigrade and this is 50 degrees centigrade. Some receptor is active during this temperature zone. What receptor this is? This is warm receptor or hot receptor. Getting my point? So there is an overlapping zone here. There is an overlapping zone where both the receptor is activated. Cold receptor and hot receptor both are activated. But if my temperature is going beyond this 50 degrees centigrade, okay, it start activation from here, but if it is going beyond this 50 degrees centigrade, then it is going to produce heat pain. That is nothing but activation of nociceptor. What type of nociceptor? Thermal nociceptor. And if my temperature is beyond this 10 degrees centigrade, lesser than 10 degrees centigrade, then it is activating more and more cold pain or freezing pain receptor. So again, it's a nociceptor. What kind of nociceptor? Thermal nociceptor. See how beautiful diagram from Guyton. So this is the concept of thermoreceptor in our body, right? Okay. Now I'm coming to the next MCQ. So this is a kind of difficult MCQ, but answer is easier. Okay. So read the question and try to answer. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. Okay, now you look at the next question and try to answer. Read all of the option, try to guess the answer. Okay, the question is tougher side, but try to guess. Long after his arm has healed from third-degree burn, a 47-year-old man experiencing frequent episodic pains. This is the first catch. Frequent episodic pain. So I have to find out one receptor which is responsible for this episodic pain, right? Which is not relieved by current medication. He was entered into a clinical trial for a drug, okay, means the drug has not been into the market, which is blocking one ion channel receptor, okay, which exclusively present on dorsal root ganglia on unmyelinated neuron, unmyelinated brain producing neuron. Which channel this is? Okay. So now, if you look at the option number A, B, C, D, all of them are pain receptor. All of them are pain receptor. They are channels. They are channels, right? Ion channels. All of them are ion channels, and all of them are responsible for some kind of pain sensation. So what is the answer in this question? This TRPV, I know this is a famous channel. Okay, everywhere is TRPV, TRPV 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, various channels are there. But here the answer is not TRPV. Because TRPV 1, TRPV V3, TRPV V2, all of them are thermoreceptor. But here TRPV-A1 is not answered because this is not present exclusively on dorsal root ganglia. Okay, that is the catch. And this is not for frequent episodic pain. So what I have to remember from here, the answer in this question is nothing but NAV 1.8. So what is this NAV and 1.8? What is this? This is nothing but all are thermoreceptor, they are pain receptor. All of them are nociceptor. All of them are nociceptor. Not all of them are not thermoreceptor. They are nociceptor. All of them are pain receptor. I am coming. Now this Na.V, this is nothing but voltage gated sodium channel. I am coming here. I am coming to this voltage gated sodium channel a little later. But before, let me understand first that what are others. So this TRPV1, this is the receptor which is activated when your temperature is greater than 43 degrees centigrade temperature. When your temperature is greater than 43 degrees centigrade. Yes, this is voltage gated sodium channel. This V stands for the voltage. This V stands for voltage. And 1 point is, this is the naming. I'll tell you what is the basis of this naming. But before that, you listen this. That TRPV1, this is activated when the temperature is greater than 43 degrees centigrade. It is also activated in presence of capsaicin. It is also activated in presence of H plus ion. That is the croton, that is the acids. Getting my point? So what I told, three things I must have to remember, because please remember that this TRPV channel is very important for future MCQ. This TRPV1, this is responsible for detection of pain. What is the stimulus for this kind of pain? We know that if there is release of acid from the dead tissue, from the injured tissue, they can also produce pain. That is a chemical pain. You know that if there is chemical release from the dead tissue, there is kind of pain. You know that there are three kind of pain stimulus. One is the mechanical pain, one is the thermal pain, one is the chemical pain, right? So this TRPV1, they can be activated by temperature also. Listen carefully, they can be activated by temperature also, thermal pain. They can be activated by chemical like capsaicin or H+ ion. Exactly Dr. Maladi. ASCI is also activated by H+ ion. I'm coming there. Very good. But please remember why I am taking long time here. This TRPV is the channel because of which the pain receptor is also known as polymodal receptor. Pain receptor is also known as polymodal receptor. Nociceptor are also known as polymodal receptor. What do you mean by that? That means it can be activated by multiple modalities of stimulus. If I ask you that touch receptor can they activated by temperature, answer is obviously not. But thermoreceptor, okay, but pain receptor or the nociceptor, they can be activated by mechanical stimulus, thermal stimulus, chemical stimulus, multiple modalities of stimulus. That's why they are known as polymodal receptor. Then what receptor, what channel is responsible for this polymodal nature of pain receptor? Your answer will be TRPV1, because it can be activated by temperature also, capsaicin also, H+ ion also. That's why, you know, whenever you give capsaicin, it produces pain. And I hope all of you know that capsaicin is available as an patch, pain relieving patch, or it is also available as a cream. Inside the cream, capsaicin is given. Why? Just I told that if you give capsaicin, it will produce pain. But now I am saying that capsaicin patches are used for treatment of the pain. Suppose there is a pain in the neck region, there are capsaicin patches available. If you look at the Amazon, there are patches available, capsaicin patches in different brand name, right? No, they are not get control of pain. They are not get control of pain. Please. This is something else. Transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation, that is something else. But what is this capsaicin patch? This is only a simple patch. Within this patch, there are capsaicin molecule integrated. So whenever you attach this patch on your skin, it will release capsaicin. So whenever it is releasing capsaicin, this capsaicin will stimulate the pain neuron. So it is stimulating the pain neuron. Okay. So it is stimulating the pain neuron. So there will be pain sensation, little pain sensation. There will be little burning sensation after application of this capsaicin patch. But all of you know that this patch has to be applied for long duration, for hours. Now, if you apply this patch for hours, what will happen? This pain neuron, we all know that they are ultimately entering at the level of spinal cord, where it is releasing neurotransmitter, that is the substance P, and this substance P is going to be activated by second order neuron of my pain, and then we will feel the pain sensation. Now this is releasing substance P neurotransmitter. If you continuously stimulate this pain neuron, what is going to happen? There will be exhaustion, there will be finish up of all of these neurotransmitter. There will be exhaustion of all of the neurotransmitter which is present at this neuronal terminal. That's why it is said that capsaicin, it's a pain receptor agonist. But how it is used for the treatment of chronic pain? If you attach the capsaicin patch, it is going to give continuous stimulation to the pain neuron. And what will happen? There will be exhaustion of the neurotransmitter which is produced by the pain neuron at the level of spinal cord. What neurotransmitter? We know that chronic pain is mainly carried by C fiber. C fiber mainly produces substance P, although it can also produces glutamate. So that's why exactly similar to SCH. Initially it will stimulate, then it will causes severe reduction of pain sensation. That is the mechanism of capsaicin. Getting my point? Everybody got this thing? Okay, this is the basis why this capsaicin patch is available for the treatment of pain. Got this thing? Okay, so please remember. Now second, coming here, second, ASCI. Already this has been answered by Dr. Malati, that this is also activated by H plus ion, but only and only H plus ion. This ASCI channel, this is also a pain channel. Okay, this is also a pain receptor channel, but this is activated only and only by H plus ion. So this is not polymodal, only H plus ion. Now this TRKA, you know this? What is this TRKA? TRKA, what is this? This is the receptor for, this is tyrosine receptor kinase. The full name of this is tyrosine receptor kinase. So this is the receptor for nerve growth factor or neurotrophins, right? This is the receptor for nerve growth factor. You know, whenever there is damage of some neuron, the neuronal growth can occur. That growth of the neuron is based on nerve growth factor. Various nerve growth factors are there, and this nerve growth factor stimulate the receptor. That receptor is known as TRKA. What is the role of this TRKA in pain? Remember, TRKA, what is the thing that I have to remember? Please note down. Suppose this is a neuron, this is the neuron which is entering at the level of spinal cord. This is my spinal cord. Okay, so this is just for gross concept. If there is a tissue here and this tissue is damaged, this damaged tissue releases this nerve growth factor. This damaged tissue releases the nerve growth factor, right? Then this nerve growth factor will be carried by this neuron in the retrograde direction, and at the level of this spinal cord, what will happen? It will causes upregulation of the voltage gated sodium channel, and it will also causes upregulation of the neurotransmitter, pain producing neurotransmitter here. Okay, so what I told that this, whenever there is damage of the tissue here, it will produce some nerve growth factor. This nerve growth factor will be transmitted in the retrograde direction, and it will reach at the level of cell body of this neuron. You know, cell body is located at the dorsal root ganglion. What it will do there? At the level of dorsal root ganglion, it will expresses various sodium channel which are responsible for pain perception or transmission of the pain. It will also causes upregulation of the neurotransmitter. What kind of neurotransmitter? Pain producing neurotransmitter. That means this nerve growth factor, by action on this TRKA receptor at the level of this cell body, it is converting the non-pain producing neuron to a pain producing neuron only. Or you can say that this TRK receptor activation by this nerve growth factor is increasing the sensitivity of this neuron for pain sensation. So what I told that nerve growth factor, by action on this TRKA receptor, it is converting the non-pain producing neuron to a pain producing neuron. So this is known as phenotypic change of neuron. Phenotypic change. Non-pain producing neuron is converted into pain producing neuron in response to the tissue damage. So this is one of the mechanism how the neuron become hypersensitive to the pain, right? So this is the basic thing that I have to remember, that this TRK receptor is activated by this nerve growth factor, and it convert the non-pain producing neuron to a pain producing neuron. Where this TRK receptor is located? On the cell body. They are not located on the axon terminal, they are located on the cell body. Okay, now coming to this NAV 1.8. This is my answer, I already told you, and this is the channel which is exclusively present at the dorsal root ganglion. This is exclusively present at the level of dorsal root ganglia. What is the role of this voltage gated sodium channel? All of you know that voltage gated sodium channel. So if this is my neuron, so action potential will travel through this neuron. Okay, and this action potential is based on nothing but voltage gated sodium channel. So if you able to close or if you able to block this voltage gated sodium channel, what will happen? Your pain sensation will be completely vanishes, because ultimately you are blocking the action potential, right? And this action potential will be blocked if you block the voltage gated sodium channel. So what are the different voltage gated sodium channel? Voltage gated sodium channel, remember, it is consist of two subunit, alpha subunit, beta subunit. All of this information are extra information for your future examination. It is consist of alpha beta subunit. Now alpha subunit, there are altogether 9 variety of this alpha subunit, 1 to 9. Okay, there are altogether 9 sub variety of this alpha subunit, and beta subunit has 4 sub variety. Depending on this alpha subunit variety, the voltage gated sodium channel names are different. Now you can look at here 1.8. So this is nothing but this 8 is based on this alpha subunit of the voltage gated sodium channel. So how many alpha subunit variety are there? 9 variety, and that's why voltage gated sodium channel till date 9 different subtype of voltage gated sodium channel has been discovered. Look at the table in front of you. So this is NAV 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Detail version. What I am going to remember? Look at every important point has been written here. If I ask you, could you recall lignocaine or lidocaine? That's also block the voltage gated sodium channel, and that's a generalized blocker. They can block almost every voltage gated sodium channel, and that's why you know they can act as a pain relieving substances. They used for the local anesthetic. Lignocaine or lidocaine, they are the voltage gated sodium channel blocker. If I ask you which subtype, they can block almost every channel in higher dose. If you give higher dose, every channel can be blocked by lignocaine or lidocaine. Okay, now look at local anesthetic. Okay, Na dot 1.4, 1.5. Why? Because these two channel 1.4 and 1.5, they are not for the pain production. They are not present on pain producing neuron. Where they are present? Skeletal muscle and heart. Skeletal muscle and heart. And all of you know that there is a disorder that is hyperkalemic periodic paralysis. That is the sodium channel disorder. All of you know that. Hyperkalemic periodic paralysis, that is a sodium channel disorder. And what sodium channel variety? That is 1.4 variety. So it is written here. Getting my point? So never forget at least this 1.4 and 1.5. 1.4 is on skeletal muscle, 1.5 is the muscles on heart, right? So these two channels are especially important for your MCQ. Okay, and this 1.5 channel is responsible for this disorder, that is a long QT syndrome. If there is mutation of this channel, so there will be long QT syndrome, as well as there will be heart block also. Now look at the other channel. All other channels, they are present on neuron. It may be CNS neuron, it may be PNS neuron. But what I especially going to remember, I am going to remember that these 7, 8 and 9, these 3 channels, they are responsible for neuropathic pain and episodic pain. Look at what was our question. Our question was the person is suffering from episodic pain. So what receptor is mainly you have to block? You have to block either 1.7, 1.8 or 1.9. But among these 3 receptors, which channel is exclusively present at the level of dorsal root ganglion? That is 1.8. Others channel, that is 1.7 and 1.9, they are present on the axon terminal. They are present on the axon terminal, right? So this is the thing that you have to remember. So please go through this table in your spare time. This will give you multiple answer in MCQ. Now, apart from all of this channel, 1.7 channel is also responsible for 2 typical diseases. Okay, so if there is mutation of the voltage gated sodium channel 1.7, what are the disorder that I am going to remember? 2 kind of. If there is gain of functional mutation and if there is loss of functional mutation. If there is gain of functional mutation, that means I can imagine that the voltage gated sodium channel become hyperactive. It will produce more pain. What is the disorder? Primary erythromyalgia and paroxysmal extreme pain disorder. Okay, I have to remember. Primary erythromyalgia is characterized by burning pain as well as redness of the extremities. What is paroxysmal extreme pain disorder? It is an inherited disorder characterized by flushing of skin with severe rectal and ocular pain. This is typical of the PEPD disorder. On the other hand, if this 1.7 channel is mutated, then what will happen? The pain sensation will be lost. Severe degree of pain sensation will be lost, and that is known as congenital insensitive to pain, or CIP. Getting my point? So this is the thing that I am going to remember for this pain channel or voltage gated sodium channel. Got it, everybody? I hope you got this thing. Okay, now I am going to the next question, and this is the last question for today's class. Okay, this is the last question for today's class. We will continue the session in the next Monday. Okay, so this is easy question. So last MCQ, easy question. Try to answer this question. This question has been asked by AIIMS already. Try to answer the MCQ. Ventrolateral cordotomy to relieve the pain on right leg. So which ventrolateral cordotomy you are going to do? Okay, we all know that pain pathway is a cross pathway. So if this is a fiber from right side of the body, I hope all of you will give correct answer. So it will enter into the spinal cord. Okay, so it is entering into the spinal cord. Then second order neuron will cross to the opposite side and it will ascend upward. So whenever you are doing ventrolateral cordotomy here, then and then only you are going to relieve the pain of this right leg. Okay, so which sided ventrolateral cordotomy you have to do? This is nothing but left sided ventrolateral cordotomy. So that's why answer of this question is nothing but B, B and B. That is left ventrolateral spinothalamic tract you have to do. Got it? So this is all for today.